In 1948, Rosa Ingram, a widowed Georgia sharecropper and a mother of 12, was sentenced to death by electrocution along with two of her teenage sons after they defended her against an attack by a white man. This case sparked outrage in the black community as a grave injustice and is one that should not be forgotten. On November 4, 1947, Rosa Ingram was at her home in Eleville, Georgia, when a white man named John Stratford came to her home armed with his weapon. He was upset after discovering several of Mrs. Ingram's mules and pigs in his cornfield. He attacked Mrs. Ingram and several of her sons came to her defense. John Stratford died from his injuries. The police arrested Mrs. Ingram along with her sons Charles, who was 17, Wallace, who was 16 years old, Sammy Lee, who was 14, and James, who was 12 years old. The police kept the Ingrams separated from one another over the next 2 months and didn't allow them any access to an attorney. A month after this incident, the police claimed that the Ingrams told them that it wasn't one fight that occurred, but rather two separate fights. The story that the police came up with was that after the fight at the Ingrams' home, John Stratford ran to his home to escape the beating. He was chased by the Ingrams and beaten to death there. This was how the police would be able to place the blame all on the Ingrams and make John Stratford out to be the victim. The Ingrams went to trial in January of 1948. Mrs. Ingram and two of her sons, Wallace, the 17-year-old, and Sammy Lee, the 14-year-old, were tried first. It was a one-day trial in front of an all-white jury. Before the trial began, the Ingrams were appointed an attorney to represent them. This was the first time they had legal assistance since being arrested. But it didn't matter, because the outcome of the case was already predetermined. The Ingrams testified and denied that they made any statement to the sheriff about a second fight. Mrs. Ingram said that Mr. Stratford had threatened her and clubbed her with his weapon and pulled a knife on her before her and her sons were able to fight back. Her sons also testified, and they denied confessing to a second fight. The all-white jury found the Ingrams guilty, and the judge immediately sentenced them to death. Their conviction shocked the black community. People were outraged. Black organizations like the NAACP began to rally behind the Ingrams. Black newspapers like the Pittsburgh Courier made the Ingrams case into a regular front-page story. The NAACP hired lawyers to handle the appeal. A.T. Walden, a prominent black attorney from Atlanta, he was brought in to help represent the Ingrams. On March 25, 1945, a hearing for a new trial was held. The Ingrams attorneys argued that they were denied a fair trial and denied access to attorneys to prepare for their defense. A week after the hearing, the judge converted the Ingrams' sentence to life in prison, but denied the motion for a new trial. This was not the end of the fight, though. The NAACP and black news organizations were determined to keep fighting for the Ingrams. Over $40,000 was raised for their defense fund. In July of 1948, the Georgia Supreme Court denied the Ingrams' appeal and upheld their convictions. But the fight to free the Ingrams continued over the next decade. More money was raised for the Ingrams' defense. So much money came in from black people all across the country that the NAACP was able to build a house for Mrs. Ingram's other children to live in. After numerous denials, the Ingrams were finally granted parole in August of 1959. Sadly, Mrs. Ingram died in 1980. The weight of injustice and racism was too heavy for them to overcome in 1949. And sadly, the weight of oppression is still just as vicious and strong today. Black people are still facing tremendous barriers when it comes to getting justice in a justice system that was designed to target and incarcerate them. Not much has changed since 1947.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth, week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashah Barazar from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right, before I get into this, I just want to declare once again fair use, fair use, fair use, according to the Copyright Act of 1976 that was displayed at the beginning of this video. But I just want to make sure it's known, that I reiterate fair use, because I did use a YouTube short as part of the teaching, research, and comment, okay, according to the Copyright Act of 1976 regarding fair use. All right, so with that being said, what you just saw was a video of the situation concerning Rosa Ingram and her sons, sentenced to death for defending herself against the so-called white man. And this scripture on the screen is talking about him. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. This is talking about the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, who is the wicked, according to Malachi 1 and 4. Okay, he is the wicked, and his violence has been perpetual against Jacob, going all the way back to the blessings given out by Isaac in Genesis 27 and 41. You know, he's still mad about that birthright, and you're not gonna get it back. You know, in the spirit, it was already meant for it to belong to Jacob, who was the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, but yeah. So, with that being said, this is a a unique. Well, it's not unique now because we've been doing enough of these to where, man, it's just the same playbook. False accusations, false imprisonment. Anything to destroy Jake's life. Literally or figuratively. Destroy his livelihood. Wipe him off of the face of the earth. That has always been his MO. Like I said, going all the way back to those blessings, according to Genesis 27. All right, and this dude is not going to be stopped until the Lord comes and takes him out, which is what we're hastening for. The year 2025, has been declared the hopeful year of our deliverance and the destruction and judgment of Esau, Edom, declared by beloved elder Apostle Tahar for the beginning of 2025. All right, so I'm going to get into this article and put some scriptures to it, and here again, this red man has got to go. I mean, he's terrible, and you're seeing him ramp up again with Nero, who's in office right now, the reincarnation of Nero. Their unjust laws, just like it was then, same way it is now. All going after Jake. All right, so let me get this article. All right, and I'll put a link to this article in the description box. It's from EGI, a website dedicated to the history of racial injustice. All right, and the title here says Black Woman and Her Children Sentenced to Die for Defending Themselves. It says on February 3rd, 1948, Rosalie Ingram, a black woman, and two of her children, Wallace, 17, and Samuel Lee, 14, were convicted by an all-white jury in a one-day trial in Ellaville, Georgia. And Georgia has not changed, okay? Those southern states, all over America, but, Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, stand out profoundly for the wickedness against Jake, all right? Missouri's another one. Says the three family members were sentenced to death by electric chair for killing an armed white man in self-defense after he violently assaulted them. So he came armed, and took them out, but they're still going to defend this man in his death. All right, I'm gonna pause right here. And let me get Psalm 73. I'll come back to the article. Psalm 73 and 5. It seems like this is a recurring scripture during this whole series. Begin at verse 5. And it reads, They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. So if that was the case today, and it was the other way around, he could have killed them, and they would have applied what's called the stand your ground law. Okay, but that's not the case. The same way with the woman who stood her ground. She fired shots in the air, and they gave her 20 years. I forget her name. A so-called black woman. They gave her 20 years for firing gunshots into the air as a warning. Okay, but here again, right here, he came to them armed. Okay, assaulted them, and in defending themselves, they got sentenced to death via electric chair. All right. It says because it says they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore, pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. You know, it says it covers that. That's what they're all about. You know, that's how you identify them, through violence, and we see that all throughout history. You know, and because they are not plagued like other men, they go around doing it. You know, because we know right now that the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, who is the so-called white man, and he is the sword of the Lord, according to Psalms 17 and 13. All right, so he's doing, he's that minister. He does not bear the sword in vain. A minister on behalf of the Lord. And that's according to Romans 13. All right. So yeah, he is definitely going to be violent. That's just the way that he is made. All right. Verse 7. It says, "Their eyes stand out with fatness; they have more than their heart could wish." I mean, it's like the scriptures say. Let favor be shown to the wicked. Isaiah 26 and 10. All right. They have everything. They have the fatness of the earth, all the riches. They make all the laws, everything in their favor. You know, the case in point, they want to make today. They want to make Jake the face of this DEI stuff when they're the biggest recipients. The number one recipient of those DEI benefits is the so-called white woman. All right. And eventually it's to a white man too, because he's got the law set up to where he can identify as a woman. So he's benefiting from it as well too, clown ass. All right. But yeah, everything is working in their favor, and that's because we're in their captivity right now, and everything is according to their laws. All right. Verse 8. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. All right. Now here again, that loftily, you on high. You proud, you arrogant, because the law is on your side. Okay. And that was corruptness. You're gonna sentence that woman and her two sons to death for defending themselves. All right. That's just the way it is. And like the scriptures say, we need to rise and depart in Micah 2 and 10, because this place is not our rest. We're never going to get a fair shot here, never, because we are under the captivity of the one who has that perpetual hatred against Jake. Perpetual. And when I say perpetual, that means continual, never ending. It is horrible. It's evident that the so-called white man can have the worst case of Alzheimer's disease, forget totally who he is. But that motherfucker, excuse my French, Swahili, whatever you want to call it, he will never forget to hate Jake. That's what they don't do. He can't remember his name, can't remember his family members, but he will remember to hate Jake. That's a fact. And that's how you know his hatred is perpetual. All right. Let's get back to the article. All right. It says, on November 4th, 1947, a white landowner named James Stratford, armed with a shotgun and a pocket knife, attacked Miss Ingram, a widow who worked as a sharecropper on his farm near Ellaville. So we know the history of a sharecropping. At the end of each year, when they had to settle up, that sharecropper still owed, you know, the owner, tons of money. They had all these hidden fees, you know, taxes. Well, I gave you this, I gave you that, and it was never explained up front. So essentially, they became a slave again on his farm. All right. A testimony later revealed that Mr. Stratford hit Miss Ingram in the head with the butt of his rifle while threatening to sexually assault and shoot her. All right. Miss Ingram's sons rushed to their mother's aid when they heard her screaming and she was attacked. In her defense, one son struck Mr. Stratford with a farm tool, killing him. Miss Ingram and her sons were arrested soon after Mr. Stratford was found dead. Even though the local sheriff admitted that the sons acted in self-defense of their mother, Rosa Wallace and Sammy Lee Ingram were all sentenced to death by electrocution, and their execution was scheduled for February 27, 1948. All right. 1948. They was scheduled for execution. This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 11, verse 7. And it reads, "Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke." Okay? They never did that. Just because this is a so-called a black woman and two black male youth, were the cause of a so-called white man's death, they didn't care about who started it. Okay? They just wanted to avenge this man's death. Point blank, period. That all-white jury that it talked about. All right? That's what they do. That's what they've always done. And again, Jake is never going to get a fair shake in this place. Never. But that's okay, because in understanding this truth, we know what their end is going to be. All right? This is the book of Exodus, chapter 23, and verse 2. And it reads, "Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment." So that's what they did. First of all, they didn't examine the whole matter. They didn't care. Okay. All 12 jurors, followed suit to, sentence these people to death. As the scriptures say, a life for a life. But they don't believe that when it comes to them. That's how we know that they don't care about the scriptures, according to Psalms 50, 16 and 17. All right? They have no understanding of the Bible whatsoever, except they twist it to, to do Jake in, make Jake's a life hell. I see now where, they say that we're the descendants of Ham, knowing that's a damn lie. All right? But this is what they do. They follow a multitude to do evil, and they speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Sway the decision. Even with insufficient evidence, all because they're Israelites. Okay, not black people, and we talk about that all the time. Every video. Black is a social construct as well as white. White, when you go into the etymology of that word, it means morally impure. And we know, according to their history, they are not morally impure. Okay? The same thing with that term white, came into existence in 1681. All right? You won't find you won't find that nation of people called white people, before 1681. It just won't happen. Same thing with black. It means everything dead, wicked, darkness, nothing good when you go into the etymology of that word. All right. So Let me get back to the article. All right. It says, though Wallace and Sammy Lee were both minors, they were eligible for execution under the law at that time. The U.S. Supreme Court did not ban the execution of children until 2005. Well, let's put it this way. We know the laws are in their favor, okay? They were so-called black men at that time. And remember, you know, um, at that time, you know, our lives still don't mean anything to them today. Still don't. Okay. They banned those execution because, you know, up to 2005, you know, you started to have a lot of Edomite kids doing mass school shootings and murders. Okay. That was more to protect them than it was to protect Jake. Okay. It says, after a post-trial motion and pressure from the civil rights activists, the trial judge changed Ingram's sentences to life imprisonment. Then in July 1948, the Georgia Supreme Court affirmed their convictions and life sentences. Though Miss Ingram and her sons no longer had death sentences, they were sent to the state penitentiary and were each forced to serve more than a decade in prison for daring to defend themselves against a violent armed assault by a so-called white man. The Ingrams were not released on parole until 1959. Okay, 11 years later. All right. So, you know, that's pretty much the story. And, you know, Esau's going to have to pay for this. You know, that's like the opening scripture said, you know, shame shall cover them and they're going to be cut off forever. All right. And what's that shame right now? Everything they've done in their history is being exposed right now for who they are as a people, you know, and we see what is happening. Okay. We see what is happening. They got the same pattern of destruction. You know, the civilians and the government are working hand in hand for the demise of Jake. You know, they're going to support each other no matter what. All right? They're going to support each other in the destruction of Jake. All right? But like I said, you know, they're going to have to pay for that. This is, oh, and I'll put a link to this article in the description box. I also have another article. This is the one I wanted to use for the purpose of the video. Another one from one of our other notable websites that we use, blackpast.org. So I'll put both articles in the description box. All right, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 109. And verses 2 and 3. All right. Verse 2, and it reads, for the mouth of the wicked, and we know the wicked to be Esau, Edom, according to Malachi 1 and 4, and the mouth of the deceitful, we know he's deceitful, as it says in the book of Job, the deceived, which is the Israelites, and the deceiver, which is the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, are his. All right. For the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful are open against me. They have spoken against me with a lying tongue. And, you know, even though that sheriff admitted, you know, that it was self-defense, you know, they still sentenced him to death. All right. Verse 3, they compassed me about also with words of hatred and fought against me without a cause. You know, it was self-defense. Self-defense, but they still put them away. Still put them away. But once again, they have to pay for these iniquities. You know, even though some of the people on that jury may not be living, you know, it comes back to their to their descendants. You know, just like the curses hit us. Deuteronomy 28, 45, and 46. Said that the curses would be a sign and a wonder to Jacob's seed after him. You know, a lot of Jake today who don't read, I wonder why this happened to us. Why is this always happening to us? Well, read the scriptures and you'll know why. That's why it is a sign and a wonder, you know, to his seed. You'll understand that. All right. This is Isaiah 14 and 21. And it reads, prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity or the endless sin of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Prepare slaughter for his children, for his offspring. For the iniquity of their fathers. You have to pay for your father's sins, especially in the matter, especially if you benefited from it. You have done nothing to correct that. Your so-called civil rights laws. That was just gutted by the president. And even when it was put in place by Lyndon B. Johnson, what did he do before he signed it? He added the Skittles Nation to it, and we see that to this day. The Skittles Nation has benefited more from civil rights than the people who fought for it, so-called black people, Israelites. All right. He says, "For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, the remnant, and son and nephew, saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushua." He's going to cut off your whole seed line. Your name will be cut off. The Edomites will never exist again once this judgment comes. All right? I'm going to get into that as well, too. You will never exist again. Let me get back to Psalms 109. And start at verse 13. It says, let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out. Okay, it's going to cut you all the way off, going back to your progenitor, Esau, Edom. All right, and then come forward for all future generations. Okay, that's just what Isaiah 14, 21, verse 21 and 22 was just saying. All right. It says, let the iniquity of his father be remembered with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Yeah, it's not just a man. So-called Edomite men, it's Edomite women is too. Did a video earlier. You were 43% of slave owners. Okay. A lot of your false accusations got a lot of Jake killed and hung, shot to death, thrown in jail. Most recently, the same thing. Old boy, the actor, he messed his whole career up. Jonathan Majors, because of a white woman. He was running from her, yet they killed his whole career. All right. Verse 15. Let them be before Yahweh Bashem Yahushai continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. And isn't that what Obadiah 1 and 10 said? They're going to be cut off forever. Okay. Verse 16. Because that he remembered not to show mercy, but persecuted the poor and needy man. So that's the Israelites, Jacob. That he might even slay the broken in heart. All right, the woman was already a widow, already a widow, and she couldn't defend herself against someone who assaulted her with a weapon, and threatened to take, essay her. All right, verse 17. As he loved cursing, so let it come to him. As he delighted not in blessing, so let it be far from him. Okay. Verse 18, as he clothed himself with cursing like as a garment, so let it come into his bowels like water, and like oil into his bones. So yeah, yep, you're going to become cursed. You know, like Deuteronomy 30 and 7 says. You know, let me shoot to that real quick. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. And it reads, and Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And Esau, Edom is the number one nation who persecuted Jake, beginning with Amalek, okay, the so-called Ish people that are, and have stolen our identity right now, and living in the headquarters of Israel. All right, they will be punished for what they done. All right, let me go back to that Psalms 109. And I believe I was at 18. Yeah. Okay. Verse 19. Let it be unto him as a garment which covereth him, for he and for with a girdle wherewith he is girded continually. All right. You're not going to get away from it. All right. It says, let this be the reward of mine adversaries from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and of them that speak evil against my soul. All right. That's the so-called white man. He continually, hates Jake. He made that very clear. And the studies have shown that. I'm going to go read this in the NLT. I know I had that pulled up. Psalms 119. Yeah. Start at verse 13. All right. Verse 13 in the NLT, that's to your right on the screen. Verse 13, I have recited aloud all the regulations you have given us. Verse 14, I have rejoiced in your laws as much as in riches. Wait a minute. Slakia. That should have been Psalm 109. 109. Beginning at verse 13. Salakia, Salakia, Salakia. All right. Verse 13. May all of his offspring die. And that's what's going to happen. May his family name be blotted out in a single generation. Verse 14. May the Lord never forget the sins of his fathers. May his mother's sins never be erased from the record. Verse 15. May the Lord always remember these sins, and may his name disappear from human history. And that's exactly what's going to happen. All right. Verse 16. For he refused all kindness to others. He persecuted the poor and needy, and he hounded the brokenhearted to death. All right. 17. He loved to curse others. Now you curse him. He never blessed others. Now don't you bless him. Verse 18. Cursing is as natural to him as his clothing, or the water he drinks, or the rich food he eats. Verse 19, NLT. Now may his curses return and cling to him like clothing. May they be tied around him like a belt. All right, that's what I just read in Deuteronomy 30 and 7. Verse 20. May those curses become the Lord's punishments for my accusers who speak evil of me. And what does the scripture say? He is the accuser of the brethren. Okay? That's what he does. All right? But he's going to pay for that. All right? This is the book of Colossians. Chapter 3, verse 25. And it reads, But he that doeth wrong shall receive for the wrong which he have done, and there is no respect of persons. All right, you are going to pay for everything that you did to us and continue to do to us. That's why the scriptures say the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction. You know, he has reserved you for the day of evil. Okay, it's like it says here, there is no respect of person. Don't matter what your status is. You know, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the nation of Edom, will pay for his sins against the children of Israel. You going into slavery, as it is written in Revelations 13 and 10, you know, Psalms 149 and verses 6 through 9. Okay, you're going to serve twice as long and twice as hard, as it is written in Revelations 18 verses 5 through 6. And while you're doing that, we're going to meditate terror on you. Okay, according to Isaiah 33 and 18. All right, and when your time is up, you know, like the Lord said, by the hand of his people, Israel, you know, you will be wiped out of existence just like you wanted to wipe us out, according to Obadiah 1 and 18. You know, there will be no more remaining of the house of Esau. All right. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, Abba Baba, Shalom.